My guest today is Matt Ward. You might know him from his social medias where he goes by OffBeatAgent. Matt's following on social media has grown because he's used that platform as an outlet for his comedy, where he combines that with the real estate element of his career and creates a really funny mix. Lately, he's also been using his social media pages for activism. Matt was by far one of the most chaotic interviews I've had so far, but that's not saying a lot since I've only had 11 episodes. We had a great talk and cover everything from his story to his thoughts on Columbus. All that and more on this chronicle of the Columbus Chronicle.
Bernie Moreno is my dad.
I don't think I'll have any control.
Actually, I'm probably the same
podcast.
age as Bernie Moreno. He's probably younger than me. We need to Google right now. Google, how old is Bernie Moreno?
You gotta use your phone. My phone's recording.
Oh, okay.
I have one mic at this point. I am like still really new to the podcasting game.
How old is Bernie Moreno? Oh, he's 58.
And how old are you?
I'm 50.
And how long have you been in Columbus?
I've been in Columbus since, back in Columbus since 2016. Originally moved to Columbus from Lancaster, Ohio, because I have tattoos on my knuckles. In 96.
96? What made you move to Columbus?
Racism.
Racism?
I don't know, just like small. Where are you from?
So I grew up in a small town as well. I grew up in a small town called Wellington. It was right next door to Oberlin, Ohio, if you're familiar with Oberlin.
Okay, so you can relate because were you in Wellington in 2020?
No, I was not.
So you were already gone.
Yes, I left off to college around 2013. And then from there on out, I've just kind of been in different places.
So you get to see, like, you probably had people from where you grew up that would tell you, oh, don't move there. That was what I got. I got people constantly in Lancaster telling me, don't move to Columbus. That place is so dangerous. That place is this, that place is that. Did you get the same thing from people back home?
I will say I did not get a lot of that. I also was probably not too much of a surprise because I have a podcast now. Not very popular in high school. I had a core group of friends and really we just kind of talked within ourselves.
But not the family or anything that wouldn't dissuaded you?
No, I've been really lucky that my family has been very just go explore. Yeah. Go see the world.
That's what I didn't grow up around that. Like, my family was kind of mixed. My mom knew that I was going to do whatever the fuck I wanted to do. But so she didn't really give me much opposition. My stepdad, just quiet guy. And, but it was like people I knew, friends that would be like, oh man, like only time I go to Columbus for a concert and it's dangerous. That was like the mentality. So I just had to get out of that because, you know, I spent some time in Columbus and others in Cincinnati. And I was just like, man, there's other things. There's other people. I want to experience more of it. And it just kind of ignited. Like, when you moved away, did you move anywhere else before you moved to Columbus?
Yeah, so you'll be surprised. I moved to rural Eastern Kentucky. I was a reporter there at a small TV station in a small town.
Like Pikeville?
Oh, wow. Okay, so that is the first person it's about an hour 40 south of Pikeville. Yeah, heart of the mountain, Hazard,
Holy
Kentucky.
cow.
I will say I fell in love with the area, which is why I do this. I fell in love with that community feel where there was a lot of people in, believe it or not, for a small town in Eastern Kentucky, a really diverse group of people there in terms of their beliefs. I will say it was not really racially diverse, but it was really diverse in the people's beliefs. And I really liked that, to hear everyone coming and wanting to like have an input on the direction of the city, because the city was growing. It had been.
What was the city?
Yeah, the Hazard.
Hazard. I thought that it was Hazard County. Is it Hazard?
Hazard, Kentucky, the city of Hazard.
What county is that in?
Perry County.
Perry County, okay.
Yeah, after Commodore, Hazard, Perry, that'll Lake Erie, I want to say, something like that.
Couldn't even tell
Great
you
Lakes
about
makes a beer after
history. I do know that part of southeastern Kentucky is incredibly poor.
It is.
Like, there's just no industry.
It wasn't, well, because they for so long relied on specifically just the coal economy.
Coal and the railways. If there was railways coming through town, which were probably just for coal.
And they didn't have a backup. So that's what they were in the process of around the time I was there, was like, how do we diversify our economy? How do we bring in jobs? How do we bring in people? And hearing all those opinions was really cool.
And what years is this that you lived there?
2017 to about 2020-ish. So about those 3.5 year period was really interesting. How are you familiar with that area?
I just did I've done a lot of research about that area. I've been interested in it because of, to me, trying to figure out the economic problems in this country. You have to start from the bottom. You have to figure out what happened to those small towns, because I've always had a love and passion for small towns. But what happened to those small towns to make them just so almost third world country? So I kind of became obsessed with the town of Bluefield, West Virginia, which is like real close to, it's like right on the West Virginia line. And it's probably directly east from Hazard, maybe, 60, 70 miles. Because I would imagine you were pretty close to the border of the state, right?
Yeah, we could get to Virginia, West Virginia, all that in under an hour or so.
Yeah. So, and Bluefield has the highest percentage of biracial people of any town in the United States. It has well, not any town in the United States, but higher than New York City, because like I think a third of the population is either biracial or black. So it's really interesting to see. What I thought was interesting is a diverse city in the middle of the holler. And that's what kind of drew me to like just kind of learning about the area, but then learning about Battle Blair Mountain, like the struggle that kind of is, it's really just focusing on that part of the country. You can see that replicate itself all over the country. You can see like how the corporations battling people is playing out in real life now by taking control of government, by doing all that. And that's right, folks. This is a woke podcast. And in case you didn't know, that doesn't mean woke like the way you think of it. It means willfully oppressing clan energy. You're welcome.
So growing up in a small, because I'm really curious then, growing up in a small town, you always felt like, yeah, I wanted to see more, and I'm not kind of buying into that mindset of, oh, these areas are not safe, don't go to these areas. How did that like lament itself in you?
Probably just foolishness. Like I was just like, that thing that toddlers do where they test their limits constantly. That was me my whole life. Like I was like, there's got to be like somewhere I've got to be told no. And I came to it, by just putting myself in situations where either I was in danger or I was having to struggle to pay rent or whatever it happened to be. But I mean, at first I grew up outside of Lancaster, Ohio, which was even a smaller rural area. I grew up around like 15 neighbors. And so the same group of kids and playing in the woods and all that. And then Lancaster was the city to me. I used to bike into Lancaster to like explore and see the craziness. And then when I got old enough to drive, I was like, I'm just going to go to Columbus. The first time that I really explored Columbus, I was hanging out with these punk rock kids, and they decided they wanted to go to a concert up there. But then before the concert, they wanted to donate blood to have money. So we went to a plasma clinic on High Street, and they got done before me and left. So I had to like figure out how to get back to Lancaster from Columbus when I was like 16.
Yeah. So, I mean, I imagine once you figure that out, you're like, oh, I can do anything. This is not as bad at all as it.
So I walked all the way down High Street, and this is like 1990, walked straight down High Street through the short north, walked east, because I was like, nobody's going to pick you up. Nobody's like, I wasn't not sure if hitchhiking was a good idea. So anyway, I ended up back home, and I was like, that made me realize like, I don't necessarily need anybody. Like if I could do this, I could go out there and explore on my own. And then eventually that took me to, so from Hazard, where did you end up?
So Hazard, I ended up in another small Eastern Kentucky town, about hour 50 north of it, called Louisa, which is above Pikeville, so kind of the opposite ends of there.
That's close to where Tyler Childers is.
Yes, yeah, very. He's from, if I'm correct, Lawrence County, which is Louisa is in Lawrence County. And loved his music, and I love the messaging behind his music.
Yeah, every year, for the last 3 years, I've gone to Healing Appalachia,
Really?
which I don't know if you've heard of or not.
I have heard Healing Appalachia.
Like if you get tickets to a festival, get tickets to that festival, they won't be on sale for much longer because they're going to announce they've got 2 headliners so far. It's just Tyler Childers, Chris Stapleton was announced, and then they have like funk and jam band stuff.
Very cool.
And they usually announce that like the rest of the acts later. I'm kind of hoping Jesse Wells might be on the bill. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. He's like the kind of modern day Bob Dylan that just stands under, you might have seen him on TikTok. He's standing under electric lines and he does political songs about corporate greed and all that stuff.
No, I have not.
Yeah, it's very, very cool. But I'm hoping he goes. I'm hoping that there's something that's, they definitely embrace like funk and jazz and stuff like that at the festival too. So it's not just like a regular country music festival.
I have some bands I'll have to show you after this just to listen to along that same sort of breath, where it's like that folk adjacent to the point where it almost crosses over into a jam band, or like that sort of like gets some of those other instruments.
That's just Southern music.
Yeah.
That's just original, like soulful, Southern music, Alabama Shoals kind of stuff.
I think the dulcimer is such a beautiful instrument.
Stuff. For those who don't know, Healing Appalachia is a music festival it used to be in West Virginia. Now it's in Eastern Kentucky. They're actually doing it near Lawrence County, near Ashland. And it donates the proceeds of the festival to addiction recovery in Appalachian communities.
I'll say this, you need to do like you do great, like, hey audience, here's a note.
Here's a sound bite.
No, because I guarantee that like 95% of the stuff we
So from Hazard, you went to Louisa. What'd you do in Louisa?
I worked at an addiction recovery center doing marketing.
Oh my gosh, this is like circling around. This is how you know about it? Is this how you know about Healing Appalachia?
Yeah. It is, yes, a little bit. I've also just been really plugged into that community. But I want to get back to you. Enough about me. No one needs to hear about me. I want to hear your story. And I want to know, what size are your shoes? Oh my God. The thing that you're really bad at, that I'm going to be really bad at, is whenever you address it, I want to respond so bad. I'm such a conversationalist. I love.
There's a whiteboard over here and it's got a swastika drawn on it. I just want to let you know. Oh, that's not a swastika. I don't have my glasses.
So you make the move to Ashland.
But that's definitely a dick.
Not Ashland. You make the move to Columbus. You were not a realtor. You don't do what you do now. What did you do when you first came here?
I delivered food. Yeah, so I decided to take my classes and get my real estate license. And what happened that prompted that was we moved back here from Knoxville, Tennessee. So I went from kind of just like wrapping that up. I moved from here in 2006 to Wilmington, North Carolina area, Carolina Beach, and then moved to Knoxville, Tennessee in 2009, 2010. And then moved back here in 2016. When I moved back here, I was selling my house in Knoxville. That's the reason I wrapped that all up. And it fell out of contract after I moved back. And I was having to pay the mortgage back there and pay rent here. And I did it by door dashing and delivering pizzas for Jets Pizza. And my wife waited tables. So we were paying like all of that housing expense by just hustling in any way we could while I took night classes, or daytime and night classes for real estate at Columbus State. So it was like the long haul, because some people will go to like short classes, online classes. They didn't have online options at the time that I did mine. But the other option was to go to school for like 3 straight weeks, 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. And I couldn't do that with trying to hustle and make money to pay the bills. So, the house falling through in Knoxville made me realize I could take my jackass skill set. The skill set I developed, not only like doing stand-up comedy and organizing events, but just handling people, because I worked in middle management in the wireless industry. So I was handling all the escalations. So when people got upset that their cell phone didn't work, they would start screaming at my employee, And I'd be like, nah, come over here
Scream it.
and scream at me. And they'd scream at me for a little bit. And it taught me, because at the same time I was doing stand-up. So I was used to hecklers, and it helped me de-escalate people in real life. Because I would just let them, there's nothing they could say that was going to shake me. Like, they could insult my person, my character. You know, if they talk bad about my employee, I'd redirect them. I'd be like, nope, over here. You know, just like, talk to me. Let's fix this.
You mentioned the comedy brewing in the background. I think it's, if no one can tell, that you have in your videos, it shines through as well. What made you get into that? What made you?
I've just been like a huge fan of stand-up for many, many years. When I was a kid, they used to have a radio show on Sunday evenings that was an hour of just stand-up. And it was like, I don't even remember what station it played on. It was either an NPR station or an AM station or something. But then I listened to, like, it was basically all the clean comics that could be on radio. But I fell in love with Brian Regan. He was probably my favorite. And just for years and years thought, you know, I should probably try it. The first time I ever tried it, it was at my own party, which was 2007. And it was upstairs in the loft of an area that I think might now be East Market. It was rented out by John Chin from Pretty Mighty Mighty. And I may be getting, John, if you happen to watch this, you can correct all these details. It was John and Neil's studio apartment. And he would rent it out for events, and it was just cool as hell. It was just like this loft, like concrete apartment. And we did kind of like, I just had a birthday party there essentially, and did stand up for the first time at the party. It was so terrible. I remember one of the jokes. One of the jokes was, and this is like, granted, this is 2007, so this is completely dated. I was like, so the world's getting pretty crazy. Big Mama's House 2 was #1 at the box office this weekend. Like, that was the whole joke.
It's the bit.
Like, and this is, I still have like all these cards with written out on yellow paper that are in my desk, so I can remind myself that I'll never be good. Like, not that I wouldn't be funny, but that I would never consider myself one of the people that I idolized on the level with them. And I think that kept me honest. Like, stand-up comedy, if you want to kill your ego, do stand-up. It's a good ego death, though. I think we all need a little check, a reality check, because like when you're playing music, you can play music to no one, right? You could play an acoustic guitar in a room and it sounds good, but you can't do that with stand-up.
You need an audience.
You need an audience. And when you only got like 12 people in Conyers, Georgia, on a Tuesday night for comedy, and they were watching the game, your ego dies real quick. Because you know you're not selling merch. You may not even have anybody actually talk to you after the show. So I think it's good. Like, people are already afraid of public speaking, and stand-up comedy is like public speaking with way more like endorphins. Like, when you just do regular public speaking, you don't get off stage and feel like you killed it. But when you're doing comedy, you're eliciting a response you wouldn't necessarily elicit from most other public speaking. And that is a drug worse than any drug in the world. Like, meaning once you get a laugh, you're like, oh, I got to do this. I got to laugh. I can do this. And I think that's why you find so many comedians that are like depressed. It's because when they come off stage, they can't get that in real life through any other means. So they just have to go to a fucking bar show or a club show every time they get a chance to get that affirmation and feeling back.
Do you feel, because your videos are really funny, do you get that same sort of release from
Oh, for sure.
from those videos?
Yeah, I don't do live stand-up as much anymore because it's just, I don't know. I have trouble practicing, you know, which is doing open mics, getting out in front of people and telling the joke like from the beginning. I can't bring myself to be out late, period, but I definitely can't be out like on a Monday night until 11 o'clock when my slot pops up and do 4 minutes of comedy to who knows how many people.
Yeah.
It could be 12, it could be 30, it could be 4, and they could all be comics. So yeah, I'm spoiled in that regards.
So, Mr. Tornado Head, You have to fill me in on this story. So this was when you first moved to Columbus and you found this group of friends, right?
Yeah, so that actually ties back to the birthday party too. When I was living in Lancaster, I wanted to play in a band, and I met a guy that played these bizarre songs that were like nothing I'd heard. And I was like, he's looking for a bass player. I think he put it on like an online forum or something. He was looking for a bass player. And I didn't play bass, but I play guitar. So I bought a bass. Like I contacted him and like, let's join him, let's start a band. And I played bass. It was called Mr. Tornado Head. I developed the stage name Melvin B. Strange, to the point where people still call me Melvin occasionally, that I met early on in moving to Columbus. But we did a gig at this old, like my foray into first coming to Columbus to play was we did a gig at this old Pony Express building on West Broad Street that's now since been torn down, with a guy named Joel Mathers and Teresa Caldwell. And I'm trying to remember some of the other people. Bob Sauls, I think, were some of the people that were there. And they're actually all doing a show this Friday at Eldorado's. It's probably, you probably aren't going to get this out in time, but that's okay. But anyway, that was like, I met that group of people through Mr. Tornado Head. We didn't have a drummer at the time, so we would put a cutout of a drummer behind us and then have no drums whatsoever. Eventually that cutout ended up being a drum machine next to the cutout for our songs. And then eventually we got drummers, but they wouldn't stick around for very long. Because the music is like, someone described it as like the Butthole Surfers meet Jonathan Richman. So it was like, one of our songs was Norman the Rock and Roll Pony. And it was just a story about this pony that decided he wanted to move to Hollywood and become a guitar hero.
Like, what were the years you were playing?
This is like 1996.
Oh, okay.
97. So that same time that I was like transitioning to moving to Columbus, I was playing in this band. And I was terrible. You know, I could sing decently, but I couldn't play very well. And we did like campus shows, and we opened for a band called the New Duncan Imperials a few times, which is a super fun band you should check out. That unlocked, Teresa introduced me to, from that party, introduced me to somebody that went to Compfest regularly and named Mickey Pike. And then I went to Compfest in 1999 and have been to Compfest probably 15 times since then, at least. Like, I didn't go during the time that I'd moved away as much. But that's, the Compfest is kind of like the center of my social universe. Like, I've met, besides the people I've met from real estate, Compfest was like, so go to Compfest if you've never been.
Who are some of the funniest names out there right now that maybe people don't know, in your opinion?
James Adomian. That's a name that's like hasn't come up in a while. He was well known during like the first Trump run because he was part of the Trump Bernie comedy team that were doing like comedy debates.
Yes,
And
I've seen those.
I think he played Bernie Sanders, and as Bernie Sanders, like all of his impressions are incredible. Rory Scovel, by far, hands down, is the best stand-up comedy. Is the best stand-up comic in the country, by far, because he has multiple stand-up albums that were entirely improvised. Like, he just got out there and did, yeah, he did multiple shows, and like he didn't get, like, there wasn't multiple takes. He had to do a different set, like for the shows, and then he released them. But if you watch his stand-up, I think you'll agree. His stand-up is phenomenal. There's just really Sean Patton is also fantastic. My goodness, this is putting me on the spot because there's just so much good stand-up.
What about like Columbus-based? Are there any Columbus-based comedians that you really enjoy or that you've gotten to know?
For sure. I think that Jason Banks is like national level talent. Like, you just see it. He's got it. That's all there is to it. And then him putting the time and effort into making content the way he did was so incredibly smart. To me, he's just a quintessential stand-up. He's got it. He knows how to entertain a room and read the room. And that's important. And I think he really has just got, like, for instance, the first time I saw him, he's gotten so incredibly good. Yeah, he's probably my favorite here. I'm trying to like think of other names that pop up. I mean, Nikki Winkleman has been around the scene forever, and she's fantastic. Trying to think of somebody newer, but that's the two I would probably mention.
Well, if more come, you can just like interject in the middle of whatever we're talking about.
Jason's just so good. Like, it's just natural. You can tell. You can tell he's got it. No, and that comes from me.
Just sit down, and listen. I've seen some of his clips. I think if I'm thinking of the same person, that I've just never sat down and listened.
Yeah, I definitely have to watch his stand-up because he's more known for the TikTok presence, but his stand-up is phenomenal. And that comes from, like, for 10 years, I booked and organized comedy festivals. So I saw hundreds of hours of clips of stand-ups and had stand-ups at our festivals that like catapulted into stardom, or booked them otherwise. I don't want to name drop because I don't want to ever take responsibility for like, oh, look what I did and look where they went. No, they went where they went because I just happened to be lucky enough to be in there. In the path, for sure. The only one I'll name drop is Trey Crowder because he's a friend of mine. And literally I booked him for a riverboat show and he got paid like $150. And now the dude sells out shows all over the country on his own accord because he discovered, you know, the same thing Jason did, that when you put yourself out there with who you are authentically and the funny way, that you'll attract an audience. And Trey did by doing a video in 2014 about North Carolina's transgender bathroom law. And he has a very thick Tennessee accent. So him saying exactly the opposite of what you thought would come from that accent, like that juxtaposition, gained him this huge following. Kind of like, I mean, in a lot of ways, kind of like Tyler Childers.
Yep.
Like, he's a country fella, but because he has chosen to stand for what he believes in, he has people on both sides of the political aisle that think his music is amazing. It transcends it. And I feel like that's what Trey has done in that capacity.
I will say this, like,
Can we switch sides? I don't like being on the right.
absolutely not. You are on the right. I am sitting on the left here. Well, I guess it's perspective, you know, if you're standing, you know, behind.
This is a metaphor I don't appreciate.
Also, this is just too comfortable a spot. That one sinks in a little bit.
Do you have a bad side? Is that why?
I don't know. No, maybe
Have you ever looked at either side? Because my nose is kind of big. Maybe this is my bad side. Play back the footage.
Yeah, we'll
Just say if whole thing has been filmed on my bad side.
I'm definitely not editing it to playback.
Then you need to edit this part out. I'll send you a video of me responding to all those questions from my house. And then you can just cut me back in.
We will try to do that. But in the meantime, I'm going to go back to why you left Columbus in the first place. It was for a job, right? Because I saw on the bullet points you said, you organized a lot of comedy on that comedy thread in other areas as well. When and why did you move from Columbus to your other locations?
It was that seed of like leaving like Sugar Grove / rural outside of Lancaster to Columbus. It was just, you know, I didn't have, yeah, it was like I didn't have any relationship that was really locking me in. And so there's that button on every corporate website that's like job postings. And then you can just like change the area and it'll show you. And I looked in Verizon's job postings and there was one, they didn't even have service in Eastern North Carolina at the time. The only cell phone provider that worked there was US Cellular and Alltel. And Verizon was just entering the market.
You're dating yourself on that one.
Yeah, they all got gobbled up. And this was, at the time that AT&T was like, I don't know, it was something else. It wasn't AT&T. I can't remember. But I moved to North Carolina to take one of those jobs. And it was a part-time sales associate inside a Circuit City. So I was at a kiosk inside a Circuit City and part-time working 32 hours a week. In 2006, I made 50 grand. Like, I was like, yes, please. I will work 32 hours a week inside a freaking electronics store kiosk and
2006 to
50 grand. So I moved to Wilmington, North Carolina, and I rented a place directly on the ocean that was kind of falling apart for, I think it was $1,100 a month or something ridiculous. the landlord was like also like definitely unique enough that I think that a movie probably could be made about him. His name was John, and he was country as all get out. Drove a beater pickup truck, but owned like that house on the ocean and like 5 other houses because
Never be able to tell.
no, for sure not. And I looked back recently at that house and looked up the property record and saw he sold that shit for $1.5 million. So this country ass, he was so sweet though. He was such a sweet man. This country ass dude is a millionaire, and I love it. I love it for him. But circling back, I left Columbus just because I was like, why not move to the beach? Move to North Carolina. It was not far from where I used to vacation as a kid. So, and moving there was the best thing I ever did because it just cuts you off from like all of your safety net, more so than moving to another city in your own state.
I get it. I get it.
If I can give a piece of advice, it's like the Anthony Bourdain advice, right? It's like move away from your town, across the river, move somewhere, but specifically move out of your state. Like when I moved to North Carolina, it was just culture shock altogether, but they made me retake the physical driver's test.
Like what?
That's the thing. When you move to North Carolina, you have to, like, at least at the time, you had to prove that you could drive. So I had to drive through the cones.
You had to do the whole maneuverability as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Had to get my cars tested by the state to make sure their emissions were sufficient. Like, I'm like, dude, I drive a car that doesn't have an exhaust system. So I had to put an exhaust system on my car to get it approved. But before that, I got pulled over for having plates from another state and a driver's license from North Carolina. I had to have them matching, or it was like you have like 9 months or something to get them matching, or it was just learning. It was learning living and fucking up and, you know, making bad decisions on your own. And
There's something really pretty about that. And I don't know, because when I moved, I wasn't like multiple states over, but southeastern Kentucky, it was a different world. It was a culture shock.
your phone don't work.
And I loved it.
You're not that far away from a town, but your phone's dead in the water.
One of the things that I learned there and I'm sure you might agree with this, but based on what it sounds like, is that I learned that like it's the people you're with and the community you make that makes anywhere you are, for the most part. Is like you can kind of make, if you're with the right people and you're in an area that like you feel like everyone around you's create this cool space, like you can make any place work. Like whether it's Ohio, North Carolina, or Kentucky.
I believe that wholeheartedly, and that's why I've been liking the content that I make before just doing the jackass unhinged real estate listing videos. I was doing a series called Affordable America that just kind of highlighted cities. This is part of why I know a lot about rural communities, and a series called Cheap Ass Homes. So they highlighted a lot of those places that were more affordable, and I would look into the statistics of those places, and that's where I see that there's these little pockets like Huntington, West Virginia, where if you're LGBTQ, you could survive there, you could live there. There is a community already there. It definitely isn't going to be as inclusive as safe or as Columbus, Ohio, or San Francisco, or New York City, or Chicago, but not everybody can afford to live in those places. And I think that a lot of times when I would post videos about like, here's the top 10 LGBTQ friendly affordable cities, I'd get all this feedback from people that would just be like, I'm going to get killed there or whatever. And I'm like, or mostly it would be people in the big cities like Chicago or New York could be like, I'd never move there. Be like, not everybody has the privilege to be able to afford to move out of West Virginia or to move out of rural Ohio. So you live in southeastern Ohio and you're a queer kid, Athens is it. Or you're moving to Columbus, and which are you going to be able to afford? Moving to Athens, or staying in Jackson, or staying in, Pomeroy. Like, there's a lot of value and there's a lot of community in these little towns. Like right now, with all the demonstrations that are going on, I'll make this funny, I promise. With all the demonstrations that are going on, they're happening in these small towns. They're happening in Marietta. They're happening in Pomeroy. They're happening in Circleville, because there's people like you met in Eastern Kentucky. It's not just a red blanket of people. There's people that think it's all bullshit, but they believe in each other because that's all they got, you know? And that's what I love about Columbus is I feel like Columbus is a big small town, and that's for good and bad. You know, everybody knows about the lady that almost found a dead body in her backyard that went viral on TikTok. But, you know, we also know each other, which is dope. And that's, you know, people, oh, Columbus is a flyover state. Be like, just lay over for 6 hours. And we may not have a bodega on every corner, but we've got 1 billion coffee shops now.
Yeah, we do have a lot of coffee.
So
My wife, she lived in Eastern Kentucky for, isn't that comfortable? Isn't that so comfortable?
I don't feel anything crawling on me, so I don't know what
I
those other
told you
people were
this
talking
couch
about.
is washed, clean as a whistle.
I'd sleep on it still. I mean, but you know,
Yeah, I was gonna say, is that, how high is that bar?
it's not very high.
My wife lived in Eastern Kentucky for a while. She worked at the same station I did, and then afterwards she moved to New York City, Bushwick in Brooklyn, and lived there for 4 years. And then when we were together, she was like, I think I'll move to Columbus, because that's where I was living at the time. And she's like, yeah, I want to give it a go. And when she moved here, she said, no, let's give it a year and reassess. And I remember after that year, she said, I love it here. It is the community feel that I got in, you know, like you said, that small town community feel, but also you get all these amenities too. You have access to all this stuff around you, and you can take your bike. Like for me, at least living here in Franklinton, I can take my bike and basically get anywhere in the city, you know, within 30 to 40 minutes at max. What made you come back to Columbus?
We were in, so I love Knoxville, Tennessee. I will say that. And this is another example of where it might be a very conservative state, but when you go to the city centers, you'll find the like-minded people that are culture motivated, that are also outdoorsy, but they like, you know, fine wine or craft beer, good coffee. They love theater, they love art, they love watching live music. You find that in those red states in the cities like Knoxville. And that's where we were able to, like Knoxville, there was no comedy scene at all. There was a comedy club, and if you did anything outside of that comedy club, that man would come for you and make sure you never performed at his club. It was a whole thing. His name is Bobby Jewell, and he's a piece of shit. I will say it in the camera directly. Bobby, I hope you see this. I don't know how you're still alive. Anyway, but I started doing an open mic. And I did a book show, and the book show failed miserably. Like, I was literally 6 months to this town, and I'm like trying to book a paid show upstairs at this place called Patrick Sullivan's, which used to be a whorehouse. So there was like, in the same room we were doing stand-up, there were 4 fireplaces because there used to be beds right next to all the fireplaces. It's now like a Lonesome Dub steakhouse. But the shows failed, but I met like the core group of people that did stand-up in the town. And one of them was doing his own show. His name is Nick Edgman. So I'd come to his show. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to start doing an open mic because all these people need practice. So I started running an open mic on Sunday nights at a place called Preservation Pub in the Market Square of Knoxville.
It's still there, isn't it?
Preservation Pub is, yeah. They still do the open mic.
And that was
the one I started in 2011.
Cool.
So that's the longest running open mic in all of Tennessee. Like no open mic has been around besides the one I think they do at Zany's in Nashville. I would say that's probably longer running. There was a longer one in Memphis, but I think that club shut down. And Memphis, if you do have one that was running longer than that, I apologize and I will retract my statement because Memphis is kind of like Cleveland. Those motherfuckers are passionate about their city and do not talk shit about it.
They are.
Love you, Memphis. Scrappy folks. They're ready to take.
Very similar to Cleveland.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I think the vibes are similar, just different accents. But yeah, Knoxville is beautiful. It's one of those communities that like is very much like Columbus, where it is everybody knows each other. The difference in Knoxville though is Knoxville's also like that prison colony that is Florida, where it's like people leave their state because it's beautiful down here, and I hate the cold and I hate the north. So when you're in downtown Knoxville, most people don't have any accent whatsoever. But you go outside of downtown Knoxville by like 1 mile, and it suddenly is just a different world entirely. Like, that's where the accents come out. That's where occasionally I find myself slipping into speaking that way. And it's not like to be campy or weird. It's just because it became so comfortable and normal. Like the North Carolina accent's more like this, than where, you know, you could be here or you could be gone. And then the Tennessee accent's just more relaxed.
It is.
It's not as punchy. It's not as like I own lots of plantation land as North Carolina's accent is. But now North Carolina's accent's dissolving because it's got so many people moving in from all these other places. This part's boring.
No,
Okay.
no, we need to get, like, the reason I asked why you moved back to Columbus is because
Oh, back to
But-
Columbus.
but-
I
you never answered that.
ADHD'd
You
out of that.
completely. But one of the reasons I ask is because I found this way when I was in Kentucky is that I had always wanted to move out of Ohio. I had always been like, get me out of here. I felt very similar to you.
We had a kid in 2011 in Knoxville, and he was getting to the age he was going to start to go to school. And in Tennessee, they don't have charter schools, or they didn't at the time. So our only option for schooling was the school that was closest to us, and we couldn't afford to live in the good neighborhood. So it wasn't a fantastic school. And when we'd come back to Ohio and he'd get around his cousins, he'd start chatting it up. And he wouldn't talk a whole lot when he was down there. But when he got around other kids, he felt comfortable to talk. So he started talking. And I was like, I think this just illustrates that we need to have him around more children. And we had a handful of friends with kids, but most of my friends are stand-ups. Stand-ups aren't very worthy for having children. And every once in a while, one like has a kid and breaks up with their spouse, then becomes a stand-up, or is in a band, so they decide to do stand-up. But most of the time, stand-ups didn't have kids. So we didn't have a whole lot of kids for him to play with. So we decided we'd come back because the schools were better. We could choose where he went to school, you know, and we ended up in Westerville. Originally, we were gonna buy a place somewhere in Columbus, but we found that in 2017, we were eligible to borrow about $70,000. And that made our options kind of limited, even for that time. So we just decided to rent and save and do the real estate thing.
Yeah. Did you find that you missed Ohio when you were?
For sure.
It's
Mostly
weird,
just
isn't it?
miss the people.
It's weird.
Yeah, and it's the same with every place. Every place I ever miss, I miss that moment in time. You know, but when I go back to North Carolina, it's not that moment in time anymore. Like everything around has changed. The people have moved on, either don't do stand up anymore. They've moved to other places and they're excelling at stand up somewhere else. So it's still beautiful to go there and I enjoy going there, but it's like, it's not that moment in time. And I feel like transitioning, that's part of the importance of moving, is you get to capture that moment in time. You get to relish that as a memory. You know, it's the blue cubes, or the red cubes, whatever, from the inside out, going up into, or the balls going up into the fucking chute.
You do have a kid. No, just
He's 13 now. He's as tall as I am.
13-year-old.
13-year-old that's 5'10" at least. And amazing and brilliant. I was talking to my wife about the fact that like my goal, like my dream would be like the Anthony Bourdain of real estate to a certain extent, where I'm not necessarily like, real estate isn't my identity. It's what I do that pays me and I'm good at it. But I would love to travel and see these small towns and be able to do a show featuring what we're talking about, which is the people that make these places. Like if you watch the episode of Anthony Bourdain in Appalachia, you know, it's amazing because he does what is important, which is sitting down and having a meal with people and having conversations with them that are candid over the dinner table or picnic table or whatever it happens to be. I would love to do that, but I realize that I'm probably past that potentially. And if I'm not, that'll be my son. Like, he's got the tools, he's got the passion, he's got the love for travel. He already wants to live in Japan. Like, he's got it. He understands that there's a world out there that we haven't even scratched the surface of, that we just see on the internet, but not everybody ever gets a chance to be there and exist there.
And part of that is being a father and share and letting him know that those exist, right? Not doing what you grew up with, which is the rest of the world is scary. Don't go out into it.
And the overlying message here is, hey, if you're older and your dreams are not quite coming to fruition, pass the fucking torch, get the fuck out of the way. Seriously. Like, I am that guy. I'm 50 years old now. I'm older than Wilford Brimley was when he was in the movie Cocoon. And I need you to now put his picture up on the screen right here from the movie Cocoon. Ain't that fucked up? So I know that I just need to get the fuck out of the way of younger people who have a drive, a passion, a talent, or I need to empower them or enable them in some way. Because you saw it in Eastern Kentucky. You met some of the most brilliant people you've ever met in your life, and nobody would ever give them the opportunity or tell them they were brilliant because of where they're from or because of how they were raised in a trailer or whatever.
No, that's very well put.
I love you. I just want you to know that.
Very, very well put. Where was I going with that? Because there was a question off of that I was really interested in terms of your real estate work, because I want to jump into that real quick, because those videos, what you see in those videos is what you get here. I feel like you I don't know if it's a bit or not. Yeah, I don't know if there's a bit.
I don't write those at all.
Those just come to you?
I just stand there in the room and I stew for about 30 seconds, or as I'm walking up to the house, I already know some ideas. And then I just improvise them.
So how did you decide to?
That's Roy Scoble influence.
How did you?
I'm just not nearly as good as that motherfucker.
How'd you combine them? Like, how did you realize to combine the two? Comedy and real estate.
Well, I mean, I'd already been doing it. Like, I feel sorry for some of the people that probably saw houses from me with me in the first 2 years, because I was probably running bits on them the whole time. They loved it. Like, it was roasting houses together, you know? Telling them stories about the houses I'd seen that day that were all fucked up or something like that. But yeah, it's just I decided, like, at a certain point, because I was making the cheap ass homes videos, which were kind of real estate unhinged, right? I'd cuss in the videos. I didn't degrade the houses though. Like, that was the thing that everybody else was doing in the TikTok space. It was like, look at this. It's giving me serial killer vibes, or whatever their little bits are when they roast houses. And I was like, I don't want to roast the houses. So these people live in these houses. They might love these houses. There might be somebody that watches that and gets their feelings hurt. And that's, that's fine if they want to do that. But I want to build these people up and tell them how awesome their cheap ass house is. Like their $69,000 Cape Cod in Huntington, West Virginia, or whatever. But that made me think, you know what? If I could get someone's permission to do a video where I'm just a jackass the whole time for their house, maybe it would take off. So February 24, last year, I had a client whose mother had passed away and she needed to sell the house. And her mom had smoked in the house. It needed some stuff. It was going to be a challenging sale. So I did a video that was like an honest real estate ad. I was like, is the roof new? Hell no, but it's not leaking. And that was kind of the vibe. And it got like 300,000 views on TikTok, which is, for a real estate video is pretty good. Now I follow a couple creators that do the same thing I do, but like not necessarily their listings. And it's like running a lot more jokes and they'll get millions of views. It's crazy. But we all kind of are fans of each other. Like there's a lot of love in that space. Because the fans of, like, when I first started doing those videos, someone's like, oh, you're ripping off so-and-so. And I was like, I've never even heard of that person. And I look them up and they're doing comedy in front of houses.
Yeah.
But it's not the same thing
comedy
as what I'm doing. It's just because someone's like, funny, extreme house. They're like, oh, it's all the same thing.
And I imagine not a lot of people were doing it either.
So they're probably, like, the kid's name was Carmel Express. He's on TikTok too. He's extremely funny. But if you watched his videos and my videos next to each other, you'd be like, no, those aren't the same. They're very different. And he's hysterical, but he gets millions of views every single time he does a video because he's got the formula down and he stuck to it. I only do them for my listings because in my view, in order to be what I'm being, I have to have full permission of the seller to say this word, that word, etc. And I said to that client whose mom had died, I was like, do you care if I swear in this video? She goes, fuck no. I was like, all right, let's do this. So I started the video out by swearing. And what I love about it is like, it's very divisive. Like you either, like some people are like, they hate it. They just hate for two reasons. Number one, it's just offensive to their ears. Or number two, they feel like I'm swearing to be cute. I'm absolutely swearing to be cute. Like, I'm a white dude who's 50 years old in Columbus, Ohio. There is fucking zero unique about me except the fact that I start my video by saying motherfucker. That's literally it. I'm like, the bar is set so low for originality in real estate that you could fart one time on a video and go viral. Like so it was kind of easy, but it's also like now the algorithms all changed. So it's like some of them bomb. I like the more effort I put into it, the more likely it's going to bomb.
You just gotta go off the whip. Do you find that people are reaching? I imagine so, but people are reaching out to you to list their homes specifically because of that.
Kinda, yeah, not as much. Like people work with me because of it. I will get like when I work with someone who didn't know about the videos and they see the videos, they're like that I'm gonna list a house for. They're like, yes, do that. Yeah, that's gonna get attention. So like recently I did one and I didn't swear in the whole video, but I'm going to make sure that it was like done in a way you didn't notice. Yeah, like it's still ridiculous, but it's just ridiculous and you could still show your grandma or your parents or whatever. Because I mean, it was just a different price point, different audience. I'm like, not necessarily going to start with motherfucker when your house is $600,000. That being said, I'm available for birthday parties and listing presentations. Are you looking to buy and sell real estate in the state of Ohio? Well, my name is Matt Ward, and I don't.
Come on, finish the pitch. We'll give you a little chance at the end to finish the pitch.
Don't even talk to me until I've had the rest of my coffee.
I
don't trust people that don't drink coffee.
I have a question for you.
I don't trust people that don't get high in some way.
Well, lucky for you, it's legal in the state. And lucky,
unless you had a moment and then you needed to pull it back, I'm okay with people in recovery. But don't you tell me that you don't smoke, drink, or drink coffee. I'm gonna be concerned.
all these projections where I hear, Columbus is going to have 3 million people by X date or 2 million. What are your thoughts on all that? Do you believe it? Are you kind of 50-50? Where do you stand?
I mean, it's just every affordable metro is seeing that flex. I mean, not every. I mean, Pittsburgh's seeing a population increase. If your city is not shitty and it's affordable from a national standpoint, you're going to start to see like the influx of people from other states. And that's what Columbus is seeing. They're seeing the majority of the people that move to Columbus are from the state of Ohio. Just same things we were talking about earlier. They can't necessarily move to San Francisco, New York, Chicago. They'll move to Columbus. And that doesn't mean just LGBTQ folks. It means anybody that's seeking what I was seeking, which is culture, larger community, more opportunities with jobs, that type of stuff. But I don't see it. They said how many people by what?
I forget the exact stat. It was something I saw on one of the local stations. Like, it was like, by 2035 or it was, I'm going to butcher
By
it.
the time that most of Florida is underwater, according to some scientists, Columbus will be at 3 million people.
It's a great climate refuge, Ohio.
For now, I mean, we're experiencing tornadoes and stuff like we haven't experienced in 2 decades. So it's not necessarily on the, this is funny, I've done a video about this already. It's not on the list of climate refuge states.
Really?
Minnesota is.
I did not know that.
Michigan is like right on the cusp, but Michigan's experienced an increase in storms and stuff, tornadoes and stuff like that where they didn't have them before.
I would think being along a big, at least for like Cleveland area through Toledo, being along that big body of fresh water would help with something, but
storms gives them fuel. Yeah. As soon as it hits that western part of Lake Erie, by the time it gets to Cleveland, it's got quite a bit of water in it. Also, follow Ryan Hall, y'all. Don't watch local weather.
Oh. if my wife were here, my wife religiously watches him. We watch him all the
My
time.
television when it's storming.
He's
like
great.
streamed right to it. So for those of you who don't know Ryan Hall, he is a meteorologist, YouTuber in Eastern Kentucky.
Like Gillen.
Yep. And he does live streams. He does weather forecasts 2 or 3 times a day during big events. But he'll do live streams for 10 hours at a time and follow and warn communities about tornadoes and stuff like that. And then his community, the Y'all Squad, will donate money to those communities, like they were in Eastern Kentucky after the big storms and floods, and Western North Carolina. He called Western North Carolina before that happened. So they already had people mobilized and ready to go there to donate, money, food, resources right away from that YouTube community.
And it's great what to watch. He knows what he's talking about.
Like, this is what I'm talking about. If you're like stuck in the mud and being like, we need this old source of media, the network television and the newspaper and all those old sources of media, and you're not supporting the people that are creators in that space and watching what they do, reporting and beyond. Like, he's a meteorologist. Like, get out of the way. Like, consider watching the young people and what they're doing, because it's pretty amazing. Like, right now you can go on YouTube and you can watch an 11-year-old play every solo from every Pink Floyd song better than anyone has ever played it besides the original guitar player. Like, get the fuck out of the way.
I love that.
Kids are gonna save the world. You just need to stop fucking with them.
It's coming a lot in this interview, but you mentioned a lot of your socials now, you also are moving towards that sort of activism and
when there's a moment in time where you can either be quiet, or the following that you've built and the platform you've built lend it to that time and that space and that movement, that's the time. We're in that time. I know not everybody feels comfortable doing it, but I'm going to use my privilege the way I see fit, and I see elevating other people's voices and kind of letting people see what's happening in real time. Like Friday, I'll be down there live streaming from my real estate profile, or whatever you want to call it. I mean, I don't have a real estate specific page. My social media presence is every part of me, which I was absolutely advised not to do when I got into this business. I was told, don't talk about politics, don't talk about religion, don't talk about any of your beliefs.
But that's so inauthentic.
I was like, that's ridiculous. I mean, I just want to say fuck a few times, but I have a feeling if I do that, it's going to be like a political statement. So I'm just going to tell you how I feel. All I want is for people to be able to have the opportunity to have enough food to eat on a regular basis, a place to live that's safe, and they're not inhaling harmful things like mold. The opportunity to be able to not have to drive for an hour and a half to go to a job that pays enough that you can go on vacation once a year and afford a house. Is this political? Like, is what I'm saying? So, like, I don't need the government to give it out. I just want it to exist. It's like, this has been sponsored by the Democratic Party of Perry County, Ohio. Just kidding. And like, just overall, we've gotten to a point where both political monsters have become so reliant on bouncing back and forth that they squash the actual forward thinking ideas from the younger participating politicians.
When so many people don't agree with I know so many people who are like,
we gotta switch. I just want to see you over here for the end of the interview.
I will never sit on that side. As long as I have this podcast,
what happened
I will sit
over
right here. As long as
I'm trying to lighten it up because we were getting real serious.
No. Well, here, let's go. I like to talk about local. I really want to focus in on that. That's why I really wanted to do this, that's what I liked about news, was talking to people, but I hated cutting it down to minute 30. I wish I could just air like an hour of an interview with someone to just hear their thoughts on cut.
There's only 90 seconds of time that people can spend, trying to, not even that, 15, 10. If at the most 6 seconds before they scroll on.
Yeah, but like, if you get interested in your community, which is, I hope you can build that
Jeffrey Dahmer
attention.
went to Ohio State University. Did you know that? There's
perfect. There's my soundbite.
That's the intro.
And then we'll lead into this part. I want to talk about Columbus. When you look at the future of the city, what concerns you and what excites you?
Well, infrastructure concerns me. Public transit here is dog shit. It's getting better. Like,
What are your thoughts on the Link Us initiative? Do you think that does much?
absolutely. Like any connection, if we can get any connection to the other cities in Ohio, or even the like going through some of the larger rural cities, like, you know, Lancaster or Athens or something like that, it's huge advantage. Like the thing I was talking about, where people should be able to have access to a job without having to drive an hour or more. Like if you're on a train for an hour, that's different completely. You can have a laptop out, you could be relaxing, you don't have to focus on the stress, and people's heart rate gets elevated by driving. All of the things we have to have the infrastructure to get to what you were talking about elevated population. Like that has to be in place before that happens. We can't chase our tail. And it seems to be on a regular basis, we don't want to put the money into that. You know, we had the opportunity with ARPA, the American Rescue Plan Act, and small communities all over Ohio took a lot of that money and they invested it in infrastructure, like a broadband internet initiative that's happening all over the state of Ohio. But we need the physical infrastructure too, because we are incredibly car dependent. And that is going to, as we see an increase in population, become quite the burden on everything to do with the economy of our city.
Yeah.
Like people need to be able to jump on a train or a bus or something and get where they're going and leave their car at home. And people would love to do that in the city. That's the evolution. That's the next step. Like until then, we're a Midwestern city.
Yeah. I talked with the owner of Land Grant, Adam Benner is his name, and he said along the same things. It's like he hears all the time that people are like, Columbus is always going to be a car city. That's just what it is. And he goes, I have a sister who lives in Charlotte, and that's what they said in Charlotte until they built the light rail through it, and then everyone uses it. Like that's not. I think that's just the thing. Build it, and they'll come. And so many people can utilize it, and it would alleviate so many issues. What excites you about the city?
Just the fact that it continues to have like a tapestry of diversity in all capacities that's really unparalleled in the Midwest. I would argue the only other city that's close is probably Minneapolis, from a size perspective, and Minneapolis is a little bigger, I guess, but just, you know, varying perspectives, because it all educates and it all informs like a global worldview instead of just having this narrow perspective of like people just like my friends saying don't move to Columbus because it's so dangerous, and people be like don't move to New York City or LA, you know, from Columbus. It's like when we have more viewpoints and more culture, I think it only, you know, we can only benefit from that. And sometimes when we're in our own little bubble, we forget how to like be more accommodating to people who want to travel here from other areas or want to move here from other areas.
There's an extra layer of empathy, I think, that people get when they're exposed to all those.
Empathy is a problem with humanity.
It's a good impression.
No, it isn't. I just
No, it was good.
stuttered a little bit.
Was it enough to know that it was Elon? Everyone should know who that is. Last question I ask, and then anything you want to chat about, I'm completely open to it. But favorite places to eat, drink, hang out in the city?
Still our favorite restaurant is Lavash in High Street. Like Lebanese-ish cuisine, and I may be getting that wrong, but I think it is. It's Lavash cuisine. That's kind of my favorite spot. Favorite dispensary is Amplify on Hamilton Road because it has a drive-through. Smoke responsibly, kids. Let's see. Favorite concert venue? Probably still Newport. I like having sticky feet when I go to use the bathroom. Plus, I've seen a lot of cool shows there. I met Weird Al Yankovic there.
Really?
Yeah. It's the only person I've ever got an autograph from, in case you want to know what type of fucking dork I am.
Anywhere else?
No, I think that's it. That's my memory can't like pull up stuff that I'm passionate about as quickly as I would like. Bottoms Up Coffee.
Yeah, there's
Love
one right down
Bottoms
the
Up.
way if you want to swing. Yeah, I think they close it too. But yeah. Anything else you want to talk about? Where can people find you?
At my house. OffBeatAgent. Everywhere. Everywhere. except OnlyFans. I don't have anything to offer. Ladies, you hear that? I ain't got nothing to offer. I am not only taken, just useless. I'm a beta male, and I'm proud. I'm a proud beta male. And you know why?
No.
Because being an alpha, you got to like make the decisions all the time. And that sounds fucking exhausting. That was a bit.
Anything else you want to add?
That I don't appreciate being on the right of this video.
Too bad.
Like literally, I'm starting to wonder if I'm in a pipeline right now. And this is how it starts. I'm on the right of your screen. Next thing you know, I'm a libertarian.
We'll end it there. Yeah, we'll end it there. Thanks so much for coming on.